Right. So we have ideas formed. We want to, they should be qualify. We want to qualify and measure. So what do you mean by qualify? Probably skip this because we don't have a lot of time. One thing I want to mention here is that in the ideation process, you got to not just think of what you are working with, but think of the system as a whole. So starting from the bottom, we could have a product, we have a component, we have a material. We could have all of them that we are talking about here. Maybe we are introducing the alternative to the material, maybe it's to the component, maybe it's to the product, or maybe to the way that we produce it, distribute it, and retrieve it. It could be that we are challenging the product service system on how the service is delivered through the product. So all these different elements need to be thought of when you think of ideating and generating concepts on the way that a product can be changed. Um, Qualifying can be done at a very fairly sort of a high level as well. So you can go into quantitative estimations at a certain level, but to qualify, if you're doing it as an organization, a private organization, which is a profit-making organization, some of the key three criteria you can use it: how much is it aligned with your strategy, what is the impact that it can create in terms of benefits, costs, opportunities, and risks. For this analysis, you can think of the environmental cost and benefit, as well as things like increase of market share, potential revenue increase, so potential profit increase, entering into a new market. More like commercial sense as well. Capacity is how geared are you, or how ready are you in terms of resourcing this change. So this is a sort of a general criteria at a very high level you can use if you want to qualify an alternative. So you have multiple options. You come to the level now to do a bit more in-depth analysis. So you have the traditional way of doing things. You have the alternative that you're proposing. Um, you can measure it in terms of financial performance. How does it do in terms of value, incremental cost, sort of perspective? You can measure it from a completely environmental perspective, like using uh, life cycle analysis or carbon footprint analysis, so analyze different impact indicators. Or you could also conduct something like multi-criteria decision analysis or cost benefit analysis, which are more integrated way of measuring things. So generally, any change on a product would have a performance impact, a cost impact, and an environmental impact. So these three are like basic things that can be compared, um, either at an individual level and compare, or use integrated decision techniques and compare, so that you get an idea how trade-offs play within them and their impact on the final decision. Um, so this one, I'll just sort of, I think I shared a little bit of what this is. So if you think of the circle at the top, which has ideate, qualify, and measure, we are basically considering the alternative in isolation. But that is not enough, because there's complexity that we have to anticipate with, as I mentioned, a number of other aspects. There's complexities in scaling up something. You might try an alternative at lab scale, but then at industrial scale, it brings a whole new, different types of complexities. You could have things like supply and demand variations. As an example, if you use recycled product in a material, for you to completely cut down the source of traditional material or virgin material, is the supply of the recycled material sufficient? Is a contamination, quality variation, fluctuation in supply and demand? What are the risks that introduces to your value chain? So all of this you have to generally consider when you think of shifting, steadily shifting from one alternative to the other. And that can only be done at a fairly high level, systemic level. Uh, so the boundary that you consider to evaluate the change has to be a bit larger than probably lab or pilot scale testing. So that's what we call blueprint of the integrated design. Try it at a high level, understand how things link to one another and the impact on the whole system. Um, and finally, in the real world, you could operationalize. So as I said, it's not a common rule where you try and test things in a simulation tool, or like you model everything first and then do it. In a much more leaner way to do it is to do it in iteration. You kind of have a minimum viable product, you test it in the market very quickly, fairly quickly, and then go back and iteratively iteratively improve it. So that's what I wanted to share. I think we are right on time in terms of finishing, but I have two more slides if you can remain for another 2 minutes. So today we conducted this first webinar on basic steps to map your transition journey, to give, once again, to open the dialogue about these things. So feel free to get in touch via email or any other means if you have comments, questions, and we would like you to sort of keep that dialogue and conversation with us. We want to run two other webinars in the next few months, one on procurement for circular economy, identifying skill gaps for organizations, which are more in terms of skill and capacity building. So these are some of the areas we have done work at the moment. We've scheduled courses, 3 courses to be run. So some of these courses we have run before in 2023. Introduction to Circular Procurement for Sustainability Professionals course is to be scheduled. There's a transition course, Circular Economic Transition course for businesses, which we have developed, is to be scheduled. And then circular procurement for decision makers and procurement, that is also to be scheduled in Q1. Not 2021, it's 2024. Sorry about the glitch. And so some of the things that we have done in the last few months along this line. We have done a report, a research report for the Victorian government, I think together with the GONTAFE, a clean economy, skill and transition needs for advanced manufacturing industries in the Geelong region. We have just completed that study, and that study is to be launched by the Minister of Environment, I think in the next month or so. So we do research in the area of skill and capacity building, professional development in the area of circular economy. We do introduce courses. Some of them are professional development courses, which are very focused and specific, but they also can be tailor-made to address some of your needs as well. We are also sort of trialing and experimenting capability assessment tool for organization, which is to be launched in the new year as well. So I want to keep you updated with what you're doing, and also invite you to be part of the community, because we'll be conducting quite a few sharing sessions, and probably the next one I'm thinking to conduct with a few panel members, inviting people from the industries as well. So thank you very much, and happy to stay for a few more minutes to answer questions. We would really appreciate if you could give your feedback to us about on the webinar today as well. So until other people come up with questions, if you could scan the QR code. There's, I think, 6 questions, 6 very basic questions, 6 or 7 in the form to give feedback. We would really appreciate that. And thank you so much for participating. And we would send this feedback form to you, and would love to have your feedback about the webinar, because we want to conduct a few more of this. It would be great to have you coming in. So thank you very much.